Hey, hello, how do you do? Shady Doorags here, and welcome back to another episode of Episode Rundown, where I review Miraculous, the tales of Ladybug and Cat Noir. And we're on Episode 3 now. We're going to be talking about, what's it called? Stormy Weather, that's the name of the episode. So, basically what happens in this episode, on the superhero side, we have Ladybug and Cat Noir fighting this girl named Stormy Weather, who her thing is, like, she wanted to be a weather girl, but she lost the competition, which, honestly, I was upset that she lost the competition, because I looked at these two girls, and I'm like, she clearly deserves to be the weather girl. That one is way too shy, but it was a voting competition, and, you know, people like to root for the underdog, and I can see how people in today's society might vote for the shy girl, kind of, sort of. Usually the one that's more outgoing is more likely to win. But yeah, she definitely did. I felt her on there. She deserved to be the weather girl. But yeah, she and Hawk Moth, I'm getting his name down, Hawk Moth turns her into this weather girl. Her outfit's not that bad. It could have been better, but it wasn't that bad. Unlike freaking the Butler and Mr. Pigeon, their outfits were just ridiculous. But yeah, and her basic powers are she controls the weather. That's the power he gave her, but she mainly uses wind and ice. She sometimes uses lightning too, but yeah, those are the main aspect of her powers. Now, on the citizen side of the story, we have Marinette trying to get into a photo shoot with Adrian, but she already promised people that she babysit this girl. Apparently, Marinette is somebody who can't say no to a favor. I don't know if I like that. I mean, it's kind of fleshing out her character a bit more, but that's an annoying character trait I've seen when somebody just can't say no. And Marinette's friend is constantly, not constantly, but Marinette's friend is like, hey, I'll watch her for you. I'm great with kids. But the kid wants to be with Marinette and not her friend. I still don't have her friend's name nailed down. And I didn't talk about this friend before. She's been in like every episode so far. Every episode. It's only been 3 episodes. But yeah, she's been in every episode so far. So this girl, if she is so chill, I'm thinking they're trying to foil her with Marinette. I don't know if it works personally because she's slightly coming off as a Mary Sue in terms of Marinette, because she's basically there to tell Marinette you're wrong. Basically, like, she's freaking out over everything, or to remind Marinette where she was. Like in the first episode, Marinette was doing all this freaking out. She gave her the gift, and then her friend was like, "Did you remember to sign it?" Like, she's basically there to just tell Marinette, "Hey, you did this wrong." And she's very chill about it. You know, she's a very likable character, but like, if I was just Shady Doorags, the chill person, and she was a bit older, she would probably be my waifu. But I'm not. I'm Shady Doorags, the entertainer. And she, to me, is not really entertaining. Like, she's way too chill, and she's kind of somewhat perfect. Like, maybe they'll fix this later, only episode 3. But still, as of right now, I kind of get disappointed whenever she walks into the frame, because Marinette is entertaining to me. Marinette is very entertaining to me. Also, I'm going to try to start doing this. Whenever I'm talking about them and their citizens, as their citizen identification, I'm going to try to use their citizen names. I'm going to try to call her Marinette and him Adrian. Whenever they're superheroes, I'm going to try to call her Ladybug and him Cat Noir, just to make sense. Because, like, I see Adrian as a really boring character, but Cat Noir is, like, my favorite character right now. So, anyway, yeah. Marinette is trying to get in a photo shoot with Adrian, but she has to do this babysitting thing, and her friend is like, hey, I'll watch the kid while you do this. And I think the episode as a whole was trying to say, like, hey, you shouldn't shirk your responsibilities, but I felt that was really unfair, because Marinette's friend was very reliable in this episode. Like, she proved her reliability. She said, I'm very good with kids, and then she proved it. Or maybe it was about trust. It might have been about trust, because in the end, or not in the end, but in the middle of the episode, Ladybug says, oh man, I shouldn't have left the kid with my friend. I should have been the one watching her. And I'm just sitting there thinking, no, if you had been the one watching her, you would have been stuck inside the ice, and you wouldn't have been able to do anything. But then immediately after, she does say, no, I should trust my friend. So maybe that's what it was about. It was about trust. Originally, I thought it was about, not shirking responsibilities, and the episode went against that, in my opinion. But Anyway, in this episode, the school stuff isn't really that much entertaining. Unlike the last episode, the school stuff was, to me, very entertaining because it fleshed out the characters. To me, the action in this episode was more entertaining. There was a lot of action going around. Oh, by the way, I've been constantly saying, hey, this show is a lot like Sailor Moon, but I don't think I've made it clear what I mean by that, so let me go ahead and just make that clear. In the ways that this show is like Sailor Moon, the general concept, these are teenagers using talking animals to help turn them into superheroes. You know, that's a lot like that's Sailor Moon in a nutshell. We also have the fact that there's a lot of crushing going on. That's teen shows in general. You know, you're gonna have crushes and whatnot. But Sailor Moon was very heavy on that. And this show, like, they use that to describe the show. In the description of the show, you see, hey, he has a crush on her when they're heroes, but she has a crush on him when they're not. So Sailor Moon dealt with a lot of that because Sailor Moon herself was Sailor Moon was very obsessed with boys, or a boy specifically, and her friends tended to. Serena's friends tended to focus around boys. There's also the what was the third one? Oh, I remember now. The third one, recycled animation. There's a lot of recycled animation, and that's what Sailor Moon was known for. How the transformations took up a lot of the episode, and the special attacks did, and they're just recycled animation. They don't take a lot of the episode in this show, but, you know, the transformations and the special moves, they're all recycled animation. I think Hawkmoth has a lot of recycled animation, too. And finally, the main thing that this reminds me of Sailor Moon is the villain is transforming people using their secular wants and making them do his bidding through their secular wants. Like, that's a lot of Sailor Moon. A lot of seasons just use people's obsessions to get the villains what they want. So that's how it mainly reminds me of Sailor Moon. So whenever I'm talking about Sailor Moon, those are the aspects I'm talking about. And you could argue that they're good or bad. I argue that they're bad because because they're kind of weak story points, in my opinion. And I kind of grew out. A, Sailor Moon already did it. And B, I don't think they're improving on the concept too well. So anyway, that's just, I wanted to get that out there. Because I'm probably going to say that a lot. Oh, this is another Sailor Moon aspect of the show, blah, 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 blah. And I just wanted to make sure that was clear. So anyway, getting back to the episode. Like I said, the action was more of the interesting part of this show. Stormy Weather, that name, these people with their stupid names. I'm thinking they're doing it on purpose. Just giving these people really... Because Cat Noir and Ladybug, I like those names. Ladybug is pretty generic, but it works, you know. Is her name Mistress Ladybug or just Ladybug? I think it's just Ladybug. Tales of Ladybug and Cat Noir. So yeah, her name is just Ladybug. But these villains' names are just so stupid. And Cat Noir freaking comes down and says, hey, Ice Queen. You know, he's just making fun of her. And I'm like, that was a better name. Why didn't they give her that name? But for some reason, they decided to name her Stormy Weather. Or just Weather Girl. That would have worked. I probably would have called her Forecast. I'm just saying. I probably would have called her Forecast. These villains seem to me I said this in the last episode, I'm going to say it again. The villains seem very competent. This girl is using her powers in really good ways. That's a good thing on the villains, but a bad thing for the heroes. Because the heroes seem to rely too much on luck. Which I guess you could argue is a good thing, considering she is a ladybug, you know. But she relies on that lucky item to solve everything. And it's interesting to see how she will use the item, but every time it's a Deus Ex Machina. That's all I put in my mind. It's a writer's convenience. They can never write themselves in a corner because they always have that lucky item. I really do like Cataclysm much better than the lucky item because I know what it's going to do in the end. Also, the hero's powers, like, I said this before, I'm saying that a lot this episode. I've said this before. I guess it just reiterates that it's a reoccurring topic in the show. Their powers confuse me because there's one point where they just start running up a wall. Like, not climbing like you would expect them. They just start running, defying gravity. And I'm like, how? How can you just do that? There's also a part where lightning strikes and Ladybug pushes Cat Noir out of the way. You would expect that to be reversed. A cat's reflexes. You would expect Cat Noir to push Ladybug out the way. I guess they didn't want to do the damsel in distress. Like, Ladybug is saving Cat Noir a lot, I'm noticing. Speaking of which, that reminds me, the freaking action a lot of times is just being show-offy. Like, there's this part where they're dodging cars. And, you know, it's a cool-looking scene. You know, they're just barely dodging cars that are flying through the air. Then this bus comes. These people have shown they have quick reflexes to dodge cars. This bus is taking forever to get to them. Instead of just moving out the way, Ladybug grabs Cat Noir and spins her yo-yo to create a hole in the bus. And I'm like, why? Why didn't you just move? Yeah, that looked really, really cool, but why didn't you just move? Like, and I don't know. Like, I want to I understand the concept of doing something just because it looks cool, especially if you're like trying to push your artistic boundaries. I don't know if that was the animator's idea. Probably not. It was more so the writer's idea. But yeah, and I cannot stress this concept enough. These two not recognizing each other is really starting to get on my nerves. And the only reason I keep bringing it up is because the show itself focuses so much on their relationship when they're Cat Noir, when they're their superheroes and when they're not. You know, it's constantly brought to your mind because you're just thinking, oh, if only you knew that he was Cat Noir, you would totally date him once you're in your superhero because he likes blah 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 blah. I'm starting to go on a tangent here. This is not sign over cosign. But what really got me in this episode is they run past a sign of this girl when she's in her normal mode, like when she's not as a villain, just her. Adrian says, hey, haven't I seen her before? Now you would think, hey, she was on TV a bunch. That's what he's thinking. He's seen her somewhere on TV. Ladybug says, that's the villain. I'm like, how can you recognize her from a cardboard cutout and not him? You see him every day. You see him every day as a regular human, and you see him all the time as a superhero. How can these two not recognize each other, but they can recognize this villain from a cardboard cutout? This show constantly draws attention to the fact that these two don't recognize each other, but can recognize other people. And I guarantee you, remember my theory is that the dad is Hawkmoth. I guarantee you, if Adrian saw Hawkmoth, he'd have no idea who he was. Freaking this makes so little sense. And I'd be willing to forgive it, and they didn't keep bringing it back up. They keep focusing on that. It's not my fault. Don't blame me. I know you're going to. One more thing I want to talk about before I sign off is I have a theory, and I'm really hoping this is true because it would make the show a lot more interesting, is when they combine with their Miraculouses, you know, claws out, spots on, not only do they get their powers, but they somewhat get their personalities because Ladybug and Marinette seem very different. And the little chibi Ladybug thing, I still don't know her name, seems a lot more confident than Marinette. And a lot more righteous than Marinette. So if that were the case, that Marinette's personality was combining with that little Ladybug thing, that would make a lot of sense. And the same thing with Adrian and Cat Noir, because that little cat thing is a lot more mischievous than Adrian. And when he becomes Cat Noir, he becomes a lot more mischievous. I honestly would like to see that Cat Miraculous and that Ladybug Miraculous interact with each other more. I think they would make great foils with each other. Yeah. I think that's all I have to say about this episode. In the end, I didn't like it because the weather girl, she was very competent with her powers, and the action scenes were just very entertaining. But it's like just right on the like meter. But other than that, if I were watching this show just to be watching it, I wasn't doing it for like review purposes, this would probably fail my 3-episode test, in which that's when I give a show 3 episodes to really get me invested. This episode has not gotten into its overarching plot, which I'm pretty sure there's going to be one, because they have to explain why Hawkmoth wants the Miraculouses, where the Miraculouses came from, etc., etc. It hasn't really gotten into that. Even Sailor Moon explained, like, the destinies of the Sailor Scouts. And a lot of times in my head, I'm comparing the show to Ben 10. Not because of how similar they are, but because of how different they are. And when I think about Ben 10, I think about how in the first few episodes, it established what the main villain wanted, how he was going about to get it, why he was using those tactics. In Ben 10, the main villain was very injured, so he had to use other people to get what he wanted. It established who our characters were, and it left things up in mystery. Like, you saw, like, a couple of Ben's aliens, but you didn't see them all, so that brought you back for more. After watching 3 episodes, like, there's very little I feel like I would come back to if I was watching this on its own. I am curious with my own theories, like, who the other Miraculouses are, if we'll see them, or if their personalities actually do fuse with each other. But other than that, like, if I was watching it on its own, this would be it for me. I would be like, well, maybe I'll leave it on if I ever see it, but I'm not dedicatedly watching this. But I'm not watching it for my own purpose. I'm watching it for a review, so I'm going to go through the whole season. So, that's about all I can think of to say. These videos are getting longer, but the more I get invested into a cartoon, the more things I have to say about it, so that's only natural. Hope you guys are enjoying them. I will see you guys next time for episode 4. This has been Shady Doorags. So long, farewell, I'd be to say.